OK，好了，Hello everyone，欢迎你们大家来今天的课。我是 Kian 老师。好多人告诉过我，他们也想要学习普通话。那我现在给你们的机会吧。我是安排做一个课程，很短的课程，我安排大概有10节课左右的样子。这个课程，我的目标是我想要帮你们到一个水平，你们可以用中文来学习中文。你们自己想一想，这个确实包括很多内容，包括数字呀、颜色啊，好多简单的句子，这是什么，那是什么之类的，还有介绍你自己。你们不用担心，我会这个课程里面用英语来讲课，不用担心。今天跟我一起来上课，或者你保存这个视频，保存下来，然后你以后再看嘛，你有时间的时候。但是如果现在有空的话，希望你们能够拿着一个笔记本，还有一支笔，然后你自己写一个笔记嘛。我在上课的时候可以给你介绍笔记什么。那今天是我们第一节课，就是介绍拼音。然后把今天的课学完了、学会了的话，我觉得我们大概60%-70%的样子，所有的中文、所有的普通话里的他们的发音。那我们开始之前，请帮我一个忙，跟着我的新的账户，然后你可以点一个 like 或者分享给你的朋友们，这个会帮我特别大的忙。有任何的问题，你们可以在下面写。哦，对，你也可以点一下那个铃。这个铃的话，在 YouTube 里面，这个会提醒你我下次给你们上课是什么时候的。好，这个课程还有我所有的视频，我都会放在我新开的一个网站 keasychinese.co.uk。你们可以玩游戏，这个会一直在复习我们学过的内容。好，不多说了吧，在一起就上课吧。开始了啊。Okay, so I guess we're ready. Let's jump straight into it. Welcome everyone to Keasy Chinese and the foundation course. I'm teacher Kian and welcome to lesson 1. So for lesson 1, our introduction to Pinyin course, first what we're going to do today. So of course there's going to be an introduction. I'm going to introduce what is Pinyin and why it's important for learners of Mandarin like us to use Pinyin. And then I'm going to talk about the building blocks of Pinyin, the components, the parts that make up Pinyin. And then we're going to discuss our first set of Pinyin. It's our first set of words. And as I say, it's around 60 to 70% of spoken Chinese, and the written characters are all contained in this little amount of pronunciation. And later in the class, you'll understand fully what I mean. And then I'm going to wrap up the class with a brief conclusion and introduce some homework and some exercises that you can try yourself. So I know better than anyone, the first time hearing Mandarin, it really does sound like gibberish. And I've got a meme here that's actually an example. You might have seen it before. The motivational Chinese beaver. All right.
我有自己的原则，我不想一辈子让人踩在脚下。你以为我是臭要饭的？我这3年，就是想等一个机会，争一口气，不是想证明我了不起。
Okay, as you can see by the point of the meme is you can't understand a word of what he's saying. But let's use this as an example. If you wanted to mimic this little animal, and if you wanted to be able to say the first sentence that he said, let's break it down. I know it's fast, so let's slow it down a bit.
我有我自己的原则。
Let's listen to it one more time.
我有我自己的原则。
It's really difficult to pick out because it's Chinese, for crying out loud. How can we understand that? Well, I've written down in Chinese characters at the bottom exactly what he said. Chinese uses characters, not an alphabet. We all know that. So how then can we take these characters that we see, or the words that Chinese people say, and how can we translate them into the letters that we're familiar with so that we can pronounce them with our mouths? Well, I guess you can guess already. That is what Pinyin is. Alright, so I've written the Pinyin for what that bear said at the start. 我有我自己的原则. And I'll show you again one more time.
我有自己的原则。
Okay, let's go through it slowly. What does he say? 我有我自己的原则. All right, moving swiftly on. So, what is pinyin exactly? Let's look at those two characters. Pin, yin. The first character, pin, literally means to spell. It comes from words like 拼写 or 拼图. And then the second character, yin, comes from 圣音的音 or 音调的音. Pinyin literally means spelling out the sounds by using the Roman alphabet. And I do have to recommend to you guys, it was developed in 1955 by this guy, Dr. Zhou Youguang. I really recommend you Wikipedia this guy. His story is really interesting. An economist. And in 1955, he and a small team developed the entirety of the Pinyin system. So, although Chinese has around 80,000 characters, of all of these characters, there's actually only 409 unique syllables or unique sounds that they make in Chinese. Actually, Pinyin you can fit entirely almost on one piece of A4 paper. So I've got my own version. You can download that below as well. So you can see every Chinese word that's pronounceable. Okay, so why is Pinyin important? Well, obviously for us learners of Mandarin, it's a bridge for pronunciation. It's also used for typing on phones and computers using a QWERTY keyboard. You have to use Pinyin. And also, really important for us learners of Mandarin is it marks the tones above the Pinyin, so we know exactly how to pronounce each word. More on tones shortly. Okay, so what is Pinyin made of? The building blocks of Pinyin, it's actually quite easy. Starting off, we have initials. And initials, as you can probably tell by the name, is the starting sound of the character, which in Chinese is usually a consonant. Now, if you've ever seen Countdown, you can remember what a consonant is. It's all the letters apart from A, E, I, O, U. But in Chinese, the consonants work a little differently. There are some that have multiple letters. Okay, and then of course, after the initials, we have the finals. It's the back half of the word. The vowel part of the characters, like ang, ong. We'll get into these later, don't worry. The third thing that makes up Pinyin are the tones. The dreaded tones, the thing all learners of Mandarin fear. It's widely said there are 4 tones, but actually there are 5 because there is a toneless character as well. So, okay, the way I see it is if initials are the consonants and finals are the vowel part of the Pinyin, well, those two together, and then you add the tones. The tone gives the character the melody, and that is where the meaning comes in for a lot of Chinese words. I'll give you some examples. Without the tones, the 2 letters M and A could mean, so the first tone, ma, means mum. The second tone, ma, means numb. The third tone, ma, is the name for horse, and the fourth tone, ma, means to scold or to curse at someone, to insult someone. Again, more on tones next lesson. I'm just briefly introducing them today. Even Chinese learners find studying tones difficult and confusing, and I'll give you an example. There's this young girl here trying to learn the tones in her kindergarten.
对，对，
It feels like this.
啊，
In the interest of saving time, that'll do. You get the idea.
好，
A note that's very important. All the syllables in Chinese, they must have a final, but they don't always have an initial. All the finals that you see are actually words on their own as well, so we can practice those a lot more. In terms of initials, there's not actually too many. In terms of finals, there's a lot more, so that's where we're going to be spending most of our time. Some common misconceptions about Pinyin. So a lot of learners say, if I don't get the tones right, if I don't say it perfectly, then Chinese people aren't going to understand what I'm saying. That's really, really not true. Tones are very important in Chinese. They do change the meaning of the characters, but context is so much more important, as well as the combinations of characters together. And secondly, very important to remember, Pinyin is not the same as English letters. And I've written these two examples at the bottom off the top of my head, Q and X. It's not Qu and it's not X. This in Chinese is Qi and this is Xi, but we're going to practice those today. Okay, now we get to the juicy stuff. If you take the HSK, which is the Standardized Mandarin Proficiency Test, if you take the HSK Level 1 and open the book, this is one of the first things that you see. This is taken directly from the book, and it just introduces the initials and finals like this for you. You can listen to the audio and go through them one by one, but I find them really confusing to follow. So what I've done is I've made my own version. So here we go. The first set, I've written here in its entirety for you, but we're going to go through it one by one. First with the initials. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we can start taking our notes. If we can write our first set of initials. In Chinese, the pronunciation you will hear on the audio, the official pronunciation for Pinyin is bo, po, mo, fo. Okay, sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? I remember writing my notes in university and I literally wrote in brackets next to it a small o to remind me that these are pronounced with a slight o sound to them. Bo, po, mo, fo. Okay, the second set. Again, I've grouped these together because the way I see it is these are pronounced with the letter E after it, but not the English E. In English, we pronounce E like elephant, eh, eh. But here, in Chinese, E is pronounced uh. Now, the way I always remember that is kind of like you're disgusted, like, kind of like, gross. So that's So, the initials then, de, te, ne, I'm sure you can pretty much guess the rest. L, G, K, H. Okay, that's our second set. Pause the video at any time, write these down, and do practice them yourself. And the last three. To be honest, these three we have to study because these are not the same as in English at all. For these three, what letter have I chosen to go with these three? I've chosen the letter I, because the I in Chinese, in Pinyin, I is pronounced like our long E. It's E, E, E. Now, when you say E, you'll notice that your mouth gets really wide. E, E, E. And that's there as a reminder that these three, Ji, Qi, Xi, if you notice for all three of them, my teeth are together. Your teeth stay together. It's like you're biting on a piece of cheese. And speaking of cheese, it's like Wallace and Gromit. It's like really wide in the cheeks. Ji, Qi, Xi. It's difficult at first, but practice those three and you'll get to grips with it in no time. Ji, Qi, Xi. Okay, and now we make it to the finals. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this because it is probably our most time-consuming part, but I'll try and make it as brief and as quick as I can. As I said before, if they had no initials, if they were characters on their own, you couldn't just write them like that. It's too simplified, and Pinyin does have a structure that's easy to follow and easy to read. So to write these, if they were characters on their own, they actually have a different spelling. So we call these the changed spelling Pinyin finals. And they actually really help us with our pronunciation as well. So every time you see a letter I, it's actually pronounced like this. Yi, yi. You cannot have this written alone. Number two, if you add the W sound before it, it's a lot easier. Woo, woo, woo. Now, number three is possibly the hardest final for English speakers specifically to get to grips with, but I have a top tip that's going to help you nail it. Do not think of it as a U with two dots above it. Actually, you need to think of it as two I's, and the reason I say that, the Chinese I, as I've said, is yi, yi. Look how wide and cheesy my mouth is, but if I bring my cheeks close together whilst keeping everything else the same, notice my tongue is behind my bottom teeth and curling up slightly. Yee, yee. So if we bring the cheeks together, yee. I know my mouth looks a bit ridiculous and is very exaggerated, but that is the pronunciation of this letter. It's yee, 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 yee. All right, let's refresh. Yee, woo, yee. And the last one, it's really easy. It doesn't have an alternative spelling because it's already two letters. It's just R, R, R. Moving on to our next set. Quite easy, these three. A, 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 and A can just be written as A, A. However, we can add the same as we did in the top row. It's a similar logic. Ya, 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 ya. U, A, if written as a character on its own, would be written as W-A, wa, wa, wa. Now I'm going to stop at this point and just reiterate one point that I'm making. As finals with initials before them, we would add, for example, Ni is ni, ni. For example, Lu is lu, lu, lu. For example, Jia, 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 jia. But now you can already see where the logic comes in. It's ji, 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 ya, ya, jia, jia. That's how we build our pinyin together later, and that's how we get perfect Chinese pronunciation. Now, I'm not saying my Chinese pronunciation is perfect because I went more for communication and fluency over accuracy. I want to be able to talk to people. Okay, our next set, only two, very simple. Or. Okay, so have a try for me. What do you think this one is? It's quite straightforward. War. Next set. I've already mentioned E sounds a lot to me like like disgusted, in Chinese. I used to make a little note of disgust next to it. And then we have IE, yeah. Now we have a tricky one. We have that E, and then the E sound, but written on its own, I've already said the Y followed by a U with the two dots. We never write the two dots with a Y. So just remember, if you see a Y followed by a U, it's definitely this U. Hello, Kian from the future here. I'm busy editing, and I don't know why, but I forgot to go through the pronunciation of this one. So, as I was saying, y, yue. Back to class. Pew. Moving on to our next set. I. Now, if that's I with the kind of addition of the U, have a guess. Why? But if I was to add, for example, a letter G before that, guai, you can hear the pronunciation and you can get the logic as to why it's written in two little ways. All right, next set. If AI is I, EI is A. Have a guess what this one is. Did you get it right? Maybe, yeah. I think it does follow a particular logic. Way. Ah, before I forget, there's another little tricky one to note about this one. Actually, way in the HSK book is just UI. Way. And you'll see many other words like that. For example, DUI in Chinese. Dui. Okay, and we've only got two more to go. Are you ready? The last two for the whole of today's class. Let's go. AO, ow, and add the IAO, the I having that little Y connected to the front of it. Yao. So alone the pronunciation yao, but if you take, for example, the G, yao, jiao, now we start to make a real Chinese pronunciation. Okay, so here all of the finals and all of the initials covered in the first lesson of the HSK book. They don't go into much detail. I've tried to outline the best of the pronunciation advice that I can give for today. I will be making more videos on this content later, and if you want more in-depth advice, you have to come and join me for class 1-to-1. Go to keasychinese.co.uk and look at my schedule there. But for now, for these video classes, here we go. All the finals and all the initials we learned today, and by combining them, every single combination of Chinese characters you can make. As you can see, not all of them go together, and the top line I have left for the no initials section. So this section here, you can see there's no initials. A is just pronounced A, I, A, ya, 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 but together with D, dia, dia, lia, lia, jia, jia. You can see how we start to get the pronunciation down. I don't know if anyone's noticed today, but as I mentioned, we are not studying tones today, and I've tried to use the first tone, for all of these. We'll introduce tones next class, and then we'll really start to kick it up a gear. But for now, we'll use the first tone for all of these, and I've chosen common examples. The ones you see in pink are the ones that have changed spelling. Not only are the ones at the top without the initials with the changed spelling, you will also notice that there are some beneath here, and I think they did it just to mess with us foreigners, but these become really, really simple very, very quickly, but I do have to introduce them. So let's go. So let's go through them one by one. They're pretty straightforward, don't worry about it, but let's take a look. So, as we say, the U with the two dots above it, the U. So this U, if you add the initials J, Q, or X, there are no dots above it. However, the pronunciation stays the same. The pronunciation is U. So let's look one by one. U, G, 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 Q, Q, Sh. All right, follow me if you can. Okay, the next set. Yeah. Adding the Y before it with the no dots, it's the same. Again, with J, Q, and X. Yeah, J, Ch, Sh. That last one always caught me out. Okay, U, O. Remember, alone, we have to add the W. War. But if we add B, P, M, or F, I know, pretty random, right? That's why I've colored them in the chart for you. But if we add any of these letters, it is pronounced the war. Be careful. Bwo, poor, more, for. These I think a lot of English speakers will find difficult, because I certainly did. And as I say, the U-E-I turning to way on its own, way. But if we add D, T, G, K, or H, we just keep the U and the I. Dway, tway, gui, que, hui. Okay, your first challenge, I want you to go through this list and try and read the characters as best you can. Take a photo of it or pause the video and try that and let me know how many you were close on. Okay, we're going to wrap up there. So I'll say there's definitely no need to master the content in today's class. You just need to practice it a few times. I'll say it again. If I can do it, anyone can. And I really hope to get you all to a point where we can start to have classes face-to-face in Mandarin Chinese. Okay, if you've got time, go through the Pinyin chart below. You can find the links to the Pinyin chart, the PDF exercise, and some online flash kind of games that I've made to go with the content we've done in today's class. So please take some time to go through them and get ready for next class. If you are serious and you really want to learn Mandarin, let me know. In today's class, we've already covered over half of the Chinese in all of the Chinese language. We haven't learned any words, any expressions, any phrases. I just wanted to give a brief introduction to Pinyin today and cover the first set of sounds and pronunciation. Next class, we'll do the next set, and then we'll go on to our first sentences, colors, numbers, etc., etc. Great stuff. Good luck. Let me know in the comments how you get on. Let me know what you thought of our first class together. 谢谢 everyone. Thank you for joining me for my first class today. Take care. See you next time. Bye bye.